your host, RJ Meeks. I want to welcome you to a brand new episode of the Fight Lounge. On this episode, I will break down and give my prediction for UFC 234. UFC 234 is this Saturday, February 9th, live from Australia. You can catch it on pay-per-view. The event is headlined by Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum for the UFC Middleweight Championship. And the co-main event is Anderson Silva versus a young up-and-comer called the Last Stylebender. His nickname is the Last Stylebender, but I cannot pronounce his last name. His first name is Israel, so I apologize, but I don't know how to pronounce his last name. And so yeah, this episode is going to be strictly UFC 234. There's another, I believe, multiple big boxing events that's happening Saturday as well. I believe there's one on Showtime, one on ESPN, and one on the Zone. So it's a lot of fights. But this episode will be strictly UFC 234. So yeah, I want to start with the main event. Some people work their way up from bottom of the card to top. I'm going to do mine from the top bottom because I'm only going to spotlight and talk about two fights. That's the main event and co-main event. So yeah, the main event is headlined with Robert Whittaker defending his UFC Middleweight Championship. I'm going to give a little backstory. I always like to say, before I give my prediction, I like to explain how he got here. Robert Whittaker has been a dominant UFC middleweight champion. I gotta give him credit. When he became champion, I didn't believe in him, but I gotta say I do now. And the reason being because he's currently on a 9-fight winning streak. His last loss was back in 2014 against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And since that fight, he's been on a 9-fight winning streak, winning by knockout, TKO, and split and unanimous decision. By split and unanimous decision. And that shows me how great a fighter he is, because he's not depending on the knockouts. Just showing that if it takes 1 round, 3 rounds, 4 or 5, he's a fighter. And so I like that. I don't like when a fighter only has knockouts, because that showed me like they're one-dimensional. What I really respected about Robert Whittaker was his rivalry. It's not really against rivalry, because he won both fights, but his legendary fights against Yoel Romero, especially their 2018 fight from UFC 225. Man, that was a war. Like, Whittaker, if you looked at his face afterwards, you thought that he lost. Like, he was so badly beaten. I mean, both of them was. But that showed me, like, yo, this dude's tough. Like he's a fighting champion. He's a tough champion. So I have all respect for Robert Whittaker. And I want to move on to Kelvin Gastelum. He originally was a welterweight, but he kept missing weight, and so he was a pretty good welterweight, but he always missed weight. And so Dana White told him, "No, you're not fighting welterweight no more." Okay, I believe he was overweight for 2 street fights. It was either 2 or 3 street fights, and so he was forced to move up to middleweight. And he's had some success at middleweight. He has knocked out Michael Bisping. Kelvin is currently on a 2-fight winning streak. Before that, he lost to Chris Weidman in 2017. And I remember that fight because Kelvin looked so small. Like, Chris Weidman is a natural middleweight, and Kelvin's size was his disadvantage over that fight. He put up a good fight, but it just was no match. And also, he knocked out Vitor Belfort. However, that fight was overturned because Kelvin tested positive for marijuana, which I think is BS. I don't see how you can overturn a fight just because he smoked weed. It's not an enhancement drug. It's not steroids. I think that was silly. However, if you follow Kelvin's career, that's how it goes. Like, it's literally a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down, go up, it go down. Like, he'll win 2 fights, then lose 2 important fights. Or he'll win 2 fights, win 1, possibly number 1 contender fight, And when he got tested positive for marijuana, he was on a roll. Like, he knocked out Vitor Belfort, and he was much smaller than he was. And so I think that's going to sway my pick, because Kelvin, man, he just, for me, just too inconsistent, Kelvin just can't quite get over that hump yet. And I think that's a big difference between a champion and I'll call it mid-carder. If you watch wrestling, you know what mid-card is. But, or or I guess in boxing terms or fight, I guess a contender. There's difference between a champion and a contender, and Kelvin is a contender. Like, he's so close, but he just can't, get over that hump. And yeah, and I think that's going to, like I said earlier, sway my pick. He just, in my eyes, he knocked out Michael Bisping. That was when Bisping lost to GSP. And I think he had nothing to lose in that fight. Because I believe the fight was on UFC Fight Pass. It was in China. So I don't think Bisping really cared for that fight that much. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker, winning in the second round via TKO. My reason is because Kelvin, he's just a small middleweight, man. Like, his size was huge disadvantage against Chris Weidman. And I believe Whittaker will see that. I think Whittaker would just out-jab him. I don't know how much each person reach, but I'm guessing Robert has a reach advantage. Weidman used his wrestling to take down, Kelvin and all that. So I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker winning second round. And so Robert Whittaker would continue his 9-fight winning streak. It will turn into 10. And so I know people want to know, well, after this, who next up to fight him? Well, that answer is ironically the fight before the main event. I think the next person who Robert Whittaker will fight next is the winner between the Last Stylebender versus Anderson Silva. The next fight I'm going to talk about is the Anderson Silva versus the Last Stylebender. Oh man, this is going to be painful to break down because, man, Anderson Silva was the fighter that got me into UFC and made me become a fan. His fight against Chris Weidman was so legendary that I remember watching it. And at that point, Silva was unknown to me because I already became a UFC fan when the Ultimate Fighter series came, the very first season, and then the Stephen Bonner versus Forrest Griffin main event match of the season finale of the Ultimate Fighter. So I was a fan through that, era. And one of the cast members was Chris Weidman. So I knew he wasn't great. I knew he was going to fight. The one thing I knew, like, he may not win, but he'll put up a fight. And so I saw Chris Weidman, and I saw this skinny, fighter, and I was like, oh, Chris Weidman, there should be no problem for him. And man, was I wrong. Silva literally tore him apart. Like, the punches was crisp. And I don't know, those clinching knees was done in UFC before, but Anderson Silva perfected it. Like, there's before Anderson Silva, after Anderson Silva cooking these strikes. And I was so stunned at what I just saw, because Silva didn't take any damage. I mean, he was getting punched, but it wasn't affecting him at all. And I remember recording that fight, I believe the fight was, in 2002, so I think maybe I had it on, maybe I was still using a VCR. I don't know. I know a lot of young kids don't know what VCR is, but I think I recorded it, or I had it on DVD or something. But when my dad came home, I had to show him that fight. And he was tired, but I said, I don't care, you have to watch this fight. And he was stunned. And he told me, that's like those Bruce Lee movies, And so from that day, he became my favorite fighter. And then he became my favorite fighter until he lost to Chris Weidman. I personally think Anderson Silva threw that fight for Chris Weidman. That's my own sports conspiracy theory. But hey, everybody has their own. I'm not going to bang on the table with a 10-4 hat and proclaim it as true. That's what I believe in. I may be right. I mean, I may be wrong, but that's what I believe. But even with all that out the way, man, his rivalry against Chael Sonnen, man, and I always wanted a super fight between him and John Jones. And unfortunately, we won't see it because Anderson Silva, and pay me to say this, is washed. He's washed up. Anderson Silva is 1-4-1 in his last 6 fights. Now, I count the victory with his fight over Nick Diaz. He got popped with steroids, and so they overturned it. But if you watch that fight, man, Nick Diaz, I think he was the one who was high, because he just fought funny the whole fight, and Anderson Silva won that fight. Anderson Silva did not win that fight. He was on steroids. He won a fight because he was actually fighting. That's my point. And so even with that, he will be 2-4 in his last 6 fights. And that's not a great fighter. No, that he's literally going out like Chuck Liddell did. Sadly. Once a feared man, and now nobody fears him. And so, yeah, man, Silva 1-4-1. I wish he will retire, but unfortunately he won't, man. Why? Because these old fighters, man, it started out in boxing, and now we're seeing it with all these UFC, MMA fighters. Like, they think, oh, all I need is one more win, and I'm back to the old me. And that one win just doesn't happen, as we saw with Chuck Liddell. 8-year layoff, man. Like, there's a reason why he retired. Okay, he kept getting washed. I think he lost like 5-6 straight fights or something like that. And then he'll take 8 years off and then fight Tito Ortiz. Like, they got the mindset like, oh, only one more fight. But it doesn't happen like that. Back in 2010, 2011, there's no way I would believe you that Anderson Silva will be going out sad like Chuck Liddell. There's no way, man. That's when he was in his prime, man. People feared him, dog. Grown men feared him. But you know what, man? Nothing lasts forever. So appreciate the heroes you have now. In all aspects, in football, basketball, fighting, boxing. Father Time is undefeated. Father Time is undefeated against everybody except for Tom Brady so far. He's won his 6th championship at 41 years old. So, but it will be too late for him eventually, But yeah, Silva, man, like, to me, he will always be my hero, but man, heroes get old, And so, that's a little bit on Anderson Silva. I want to talk a little bit about his opponent called the Last Stylebender. And like I said earlier, I can't pronounce his last name. His first name is Israel. So, now he's a young up-and-comer. I only knew about him, I guess, his fight against Derek Bronson. And man, he tore, Derek apart. You can actually fight. You can actually catch that, the Last Stylebender versus Derek Bronson fight on UFC.com as part of their, free fight week. And the Stylebender, man, tore Bronson apart, man. Like, I'm not gonna say it was Silva-esque, but it looked kind of familiar. So I'm not gonna act like I know a whole bunch about the Last Stylebender, because I don't. But his last fight against Bronson was so impressive that put on that he was on mine and everybody's radar going forward. And so yeah, that's the reason why I gotta pick the Last Stylebender, man, to beat Anderson Silva. Like I said, Stylebender, he's younger, faster, probably stronger, and it's a better all-round fighter right now than Anderson Silva is, and right now. And in his prime, I would pick Anderson Silva, no question. But a fighter who is 1-4-1 in his last 6 fights, come on, If you take away the name, if you take away the status, he's just a regular fighter now. No, I should take that back. He's a bad fighter. And again, I couldn't believe saying that. But yeah, if you're 1-4-1 in your last 6 fights, or even 2-4, which I believe he is, I don't think that steroids help Silva beating Diaz. But even being 2-4, man, like, that's not good. That's not even average. That's below average. And so that's why, unfortunately, that's like paid me to say this, man. But yeah, Silva's don't get knocked out. Man, pains me to say that, man. I think Stylebender is going to knock him out in the first round. And that's the thing, Silva used to have a great chin. But that Chris Weidman thing, man, opened him up. Like I said, nobody's fearful of him now. Now can the Stylebender, can he take a punch? Can he take a knee? I don't know. He hasn't been tested yet. Now is there a possibility that for one round or one fight we can see the old Prime Minister Silva? Of course we can. But against Stylebender, I would have to disagree. That dude, he has all the momentum right now. I don't want to call him the next Silva, because Silva ran supreme for 10 years? At least 8 years, if not 9, 10, So I gotta, the brakes on him, but he is a young, hungry, up-and-coming prospect, man. And if he beats Silva, like I predict he will in the first round, there's without question that it will be Robert Whittaker versus the Stylebender for the UFC Middleweight Championship. This Anderson Silva versus Stylebender fight is being marketed as idols become rivals, because on his Instagram, back when he was a fan, Israel was a Silva fan. Like he hated Chael Sonnen, kind of like I did, because he's Robert Anderson Silva. Like he was a huge fan before he became, in the UFC. And so it's being billed as idols become rivals, which is true, but I think it should be billed as the past Anderson Silva meets the present as the style, bender. Now, if Anderson Silva somehow wins, I will be shocked. I will be totally shocked, man. The only thing that I think that will happen, I don't think we're going to see prime Anderson Silva. Like, that was years ago. But if Stylebender becomes too flashy and doesn't respect Silva, and Silva connects, that's the only way I think it will happen. I think if Stylebender does give Silva the respect, then that can happen. But I don't know, like I said, like he was a Silva fan, and he knows how much having that name on his resume will mean to him. And Dana White and other people probably in his ear is like, hey, if you win this fight, the title is within reach. So I don't see him messing around. I don't see him playing. I seen Stylebender put on a show and knocking Silva out, So like I said, I don't see it getting past the first round. And yeah, and I hope Anderson Silva retires. I really do. There's nothing else to prove. He can't even, would you rather see Silva fight scrubs, like 13th, 10 ranked fighters? Would you rather see Silva get beat by elite fighters? Like, I couldn't imagine Silva versus a, Yoel. Oh man, Silva would kill against Yoel, I want to see Silva just retire, man, But hey, it's easy for me to say that because I only got to pay his bills, and fighting pays his bills. And that would do for today's episode. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to my predictions. And be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment and below. This is for the YouTube. On YouTube, I try to post daily content. If not daily, at least twice to 3 times a week. So I try to keep that active. Follow us on IG, Fight Lounge. Just search for us. On Twitter, the same thing, Fight Lounge. And on YouTube pages, Fight Lounge. And if you listen, and this is also available for all podcasts on Spotify, iTunes, etc. Let's type in Fight Lounge. So yeah, before I go, I want to say thank you to everybody, for listening. And I got a feeling UFC 234 is gonna be a great card, man. So I got Whittaker knocking out Kelvin, and sadly I got the Stylebender knocking out Silva. But who knows? I might be wrong. For Silva's case, I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see one more hurrah out of Anderson Silva, but I gotta be realistic. But hey, I guess we just gotta wait and see. So that would do it for me. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.